Hello everyone, Star Baby Homestead here. I thought I would do a video on sourdough starter. Since we got this homestead, since we acquired it, I haven't made any sourdough. And I was like, you know what? There are probably people out there who don't know about making sourdough. And, pretty much sourdough starter is just the yeast, as opposed to buying the Fleshman's yeast or something that you would buy at the store. You are making your own, and this starter can last you for years, and it just keeps getting better. So what I have here is my starter that I started 2 days ago. So this takes about a 7-day process. And what I have done, I put 60 grams of wheat flour into this jar. This is a 32-ounce jar to allow for expansion. And then I put 60 grams of water. Now I started with wheat because all of that bran and all that fiber in there. You can just get some regular old white whole wheat milled flour from Kroger or wherever you want to get yours from, and put them in this jar. Now, if you have a scale, I just happen to have a digital scale here. It's pretty simple. You turn it on. Then you say put whatever it is, your container on here, right? Let me show you. And it shows you the measurements of your, sorry about the glare, it shows you the measurements of your container. Well, when you hit the button again, it goes to 0. So no matter what you add in here, it's going to measure what you add. So, and I'm touching it, that's why it's doing that. So we want grams. Mine's set for ounces because I usually use this to make soap, but it's great for baking and for other things. So this particular recipe for the starter, it uses grams, okay? So it's set to grams. So what I need here, well, first let me back up. This is the first day. I did, like I said, 60 grams of wheat flour, 60 grams of water. Covered it, left it in a warm place inside of my pantry. And then the next day, I stirred it just to get it activated. You can see it's risen, it's got lots of bubbles. I guess I should have showed you what it looked like before, but all it looked like was a little puddle of wheat and flour at the bottom of this glass. It was just kind of just a blob. Nothing spectacular. This looks kind of like risen flour, right? Next day I stirred it. So we're on day 3 where I'm going to be feeding this. So what I need now is 60 grams of water. So let's do that. Let's just measure that out real quick. Oop, close. All right, there we have our 60 grams of water. Let's take that. So now measure out 60 grams of flour. Now I'm not going to be using wheat flour to measure out, feed my starter. I'm going to be continuing with all-purpose unbleached white flour. And why? Because it makes whatever you're making. You can pretty much make anything with it. If you're going to be using whole wheat flour for everything across the board, then you're going to have denser bread. If you want a nice balance of light and fluffy bread that has the fiber that you need, but yet it's a little bit, crispy, that you normally would get with sourdough, it just makes a wonderful balance. So starting with wheat and finishing with flour, and then that way you can just use your starter for any kind of recipe. So if you want to make wheat rolls, you can still use this particular starter. So, all right, let's zero this out and let's measure out 60 grams of flour. Seems like a lot now, doesn't it? Now, something you may be asking, why not just use like a half a cup or something like that? Because it looks like about a half a cup, right? You guys, I can absolutely hate this. I hate this particular tripod. I am so sorry. Okay, let's try that. Hold on. Okay. So you may be asking, why not just use cups, right? Or something like that, because that looks like a half a cup. Well, volume and using measurements such as ounces, like your liquid, it's going to measure out differently. If you use it for liquid, that's why we just do grams. If you use a measuring cup, the measurement's going to be completely different than if you use a measuring cup. They don't equal out sometimes. So in order to get the measurements that you want, we just do by volume. All right, let's see here. Almost. All right, a little bit more. Oh, goodness. There we go, 60 grams of flour. All right, so off to the side you go. All right. So, got our 60 grams of water, our 60 grams of flour. I'm not going to waste any of this flour. I'm going to put it right here in our pile. All right, so now what we have to do is we have to discard half. Now, why do we discard in sourdough starter? Well, we discard because if we didn't, we would have a giant jar just full of starter. Okay, it is much. You're going to feed this for 7 days. Well, actually, you know, of course, you take away the first 2. So you're going to be feeding this thing for 5 days, and it swells up to double its size. So in 5 days' time, it's going to explode out over here, over your jar. So this is why we do our discard. So, all right, so I'm going to take my empty container, stick it here, zero out. All right, we're at 0 grams. I need to take 60 grams of starter out of this. Now, some people use their discard, but I mean, and I guess you could if you continuously feed your starter after you have your initial starter, but yeah, you can just get rid of it. I know some people probably don't want to waste, but I mean, it's perfectly fine. You're not wasting a whole lot. Or if you're going to bake immediately, you can use it for baking. All right, so we got to get our spatula. Okay. We're only at 20. And it seems like we're removing a lot, but 62, so let's see, let's get some more back. 59, that's good enough. So that leaves us, once again, with half the amount that we started with. It's actually more, it's like 120 because it doubled, right? So we use our spatula because you want to scrape down. It's a messy procedure. You want to scrape down all of the sides. When you first start, you may get some kind of wet liquid in with your starter. That's okay, just pour it off. It just means that you know, the bacteria that you need is working. So here's our discard. you can just chuck that in the trash, or you can start another batch of starter. But yeah, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to chuck it. And we're going to add our 60 grams of flour. Oh my God, I'm going to make a mess. Right on in there. I made a complete mess. That's why I use a wide mouth jar. If you guys noticed that. It's a wide mouth jar because flour is a messy business. And then we're going to add our water. Okay. Now I'm using a fork. That's what most people, I think, will do, is use a fork. Because you want this stirred really well. And if you can see this, look, see, it just makes a batter. Just kind of looks like pancake batter. Scrape the sides really well. All right. Saw a little extra flour hanging out. Okay. So now I scrape around the jar. You want to get all your extra down. Also, this keeps any bacteria, mold, or weird stuff from growing on the inside of the jar. So just scrape it all down. Pretty much just cleaning, doing a bit of cleanup here. If you made bread before, this is kind of like when you're getting all those bits off the side of the jar bowl when you're using it. Okay. All right. Clean off our spatula. All right. So there you have it. You have day 3 of your starter. So what am I going to do? Wait, I see a little bit more. And clean that down. All right. I'm going to take my plastic wrap. Cover over this again. You want it tight, but not too tight. You know, plastic wrap has a little give to it. And then you're going to stick this someplace warm. So I will check in with you in a couple of days, but the next couple of days, it's just going to be doing the same. I'm going to discard 60 grams of this starter, and then I'm going to replace it with 60 grams of white flour and 60 grams of water. Stir it, cover it, and put it someplace warm. So by the time we're on our 7th day, our starter will be ready to rock. So I'll check back in later. All right, guys, it is day 15. Now, I know I told you it's storming, so you may hear that thunder, but I know I said that the recipe that I did was for 7 days, and I did feed my starter for 7 days. So I started with 60 grams of wheat flour and 60 grams of water. And each day, well, the second day I didn't do anything, but each day following, I would do half a discard, and then I would add 60 grams of flour, white all-purpose flour, and 60 grams of water. Now, the first day, or the second day, it rose, and it was really great. But you guys, it took a while before it started to actually show any results. So what I started doing is, I think it was on the 7th day, after it being watery and sort of bubbly. Okay, there were bubbles in it, but it really wasn't, it wasn't enough for me. I didn't feel like it was ready. So I put it in a warmer spot. I added a teaspoon of wheat flour and no water, and just stirred it up, thickened it. And then the next day, I did half of a discard of the amount. Then I fed it again with the 60 grams of regular all-purpose flour, white, and less than 60 grams of warm water. Now we have well water here, which is fed by an aqueduct. So we get really good spring water here, so I'm not worried about my water. But I warmed it, and then I stuck it in the oven with the light on. Now I did this overnight. So I'm not sure if my pantry wasn't getting warm enough. That could have been it, but it felt pretty warm in there for me. But I want to show you guys something. Take a look at that. You see those bubbles? Do you see that stretchiness going on in there? This is an active starter. It's full of bubbles and it has risen. So I can just bake with this. I'm not sure if I'm going to do that tonight, which means I probably need to feed it again. But this is amazing. I actually want to use it right now, but I'm going to be making jam tonight, so I'm not going to use this. So I'm going to continue this video, and I will leave the recipe or how I did this, created this starter in the description, but it's day 15, people. I want you to understand that. So don't give up. Unless you're growing mold in your jar, there's a bunch of brown stuff on top, which you could just pour off. Or if there's just a weird, just horrible smell. It should smell yeasty. And these bubbles are an indication of fermentation, which if you make kimchi or any sort of like pickled or lactic acid pickles or whatever, lacto-fermentation, you know bubbles are an excellent sign. So I am happy. I'm not sure I'm going to discard this. I think I'm just going to feed it. And tomorrow I'm probably going to be baking focaccia or some kind of sourdough. But yeah. Day 15, the magic happened for me. So this could happen quicker for you. But, you know, I almost gave up and I wanted to chuck it all in the trash. But, you know, I'm like, you know what? It's nothing. It's all about experimentation, right? Everyone's home is different. The flour you used, I just used plain old Kroger flour. Nothing special. I think I used bleached wheat and then unbleached all-purpose. But the wheat is the kicker to get it started, and so the rest is, yeah. So extremely happy. Again, don't give up. And all right, so the next video will be about me making some bread with this. Be well, be blessed. If you have started sourdough before, and it had been a long time, you know, since I just didn't remember, and I threw away any other kind of starter I possibly would have when we changed homes. So let me know what your tips are. Leave a comment below and let me know what your experience has been with the starter. But I love baking, and I'm gonna get to it, but after this I'm probably gonna store it in the refrigerator after I feed it. But that's going to be after I bake tomorrow. All right. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.